All right. Welcome back to the show, everybody. I am joined today by a special guest, Mr. Freddie Stevenson. And I've been looking forward to talking to this gentleman for a while. I'm very excited to have you here with me, Freddie. Before we jump in, man, why don't you tell everybody kind of who you are, what you're all about, real quick?
Yeah, man, Freddie Stevenson, former football player, played at Florida State in college, had the opportunity to play in the NFL, signed with Chicago Bears, and then now transitioning into life as a motivational speaker, entrepreneur, and we're going to be able to add a film producer to that as well soon. So it's been definitely a crazy journey, but I've been enjoying everything.
Yeah, man. Yeah, well, I got to tell you, dude, I love your stuff. I love everything you put out. Like I told you when I first reached out to you and just kind of told you that your story resonated with me, man. I really appreciate people who face and overcome adversity, and not only that, use it as a tool to be stronger moving forward, which it seems like you've definitely been able to do in your life. And I respect that, because it's easy to fall into the other pattern, which is to use it as an excuse. You know, I grew up poor and this and that, and so that's why I can't achieve anything. But guys like you show young people today that that's not the case. As long as you're willing to put in the work and overcome, you can do that, man. So that's why I was really interested in talking to you, and why I followed you and reached out. Could you give the listeners a little background on kind of your story coming up and all of that, and what inspired you to get into the motivational field and writing the book and everything else that we'll talk about?
Yeah, growing up, man, we had our ups and downs. Times were good, times were bad. Earlier in my childhood, my father was incarcerated for drug trafficking, so it kind of left us in a bind where we were struggling. My mother, she has 5 kids. Now she's trying to figure out how to feed them, working 2 to 3 jobs at a time. Found ourselves homeless, just bouncing around from place to place, and it got rough. And we made it through that. My father, now he's out of prison. He's a pastor. He's completely changed his life around. But just those struggles along the way was kind of what motivated me and fueled me along the journey. I remember when I was younger in my childhood, they gave me a football. And I don't know, it was just like the first thing that ever had any meaning to me. We didn't have much. So when they gave me that football, it's like the first gift I was ever able to have. So I wanted to make them proud. And I used that football. I told them, I remember telling them early on, I want to use this football to change the course of our situation forever. Of course, our family break generational curses. And that's ultimately what I did. Became one of the top high school players in high school, I think top 15 linebackers in the country, and signed with Florida State and played in the NFL, and I'm doing what I'm doing now.
Man, I love it. I love it. And it's so true that the ups and downs shape us into who we are. And a big part of what I do is I always think, when I'm putting out episodes and when I'm putting out content and whatever, I always think about the young people that are probably listening, you know, and I think about maybe the young people who are going through similar stuff. And it's like, somehow maybe this will get in front of them and they'll hear it and they'll know that anything is possible. And, you know, it's crazy because both of my parents were drug addicts and incarcerated for drug-related stuff, was homeless at different points. You know, I only had one sibling, and I'm the older one, so I had to kind of look out for her. And it was rough, man. And it's like a lot of the kids I grew up with who were in similar situations, man, it's like they either ended up like crushing it in life, or at least being someone who's all about being productive and being successful, or the exact opposite. Like they fell into that way of life. And it breaks my heart to look back at those dudes who are, you know, a lot of them are incarcerated now that were my friends. And so my hope is that highlighting guys like you and talking about our backgrounds shows younger people that, man, especially in America where, you know, the sky's the limit, you can achieve anything that you put your mind to, you know, don't give up.
Yeah, without a doubt, I'm with you. And for me, it's tough, and not just me, people out here that you may be in an environment where you don't have any inspiration. Like for me coming up, it was tough in the sense that I didn't have anybody that around me that had been to that level of successful. All the people I knew were like street cats, or they were struggling broke. So that's all that we knew. So to be the one that said, I'm going to do something the right way, people look at you funny.
Yeah.
And highlighting our stories like ours, I think it can completely change the world when you hear stories like this, because when you have people like us, we don't have the inspiration that other people have. We don't have the role models. My father's in prison. Who do I have to look up to? But somehow I found it within myself to be crazy enough to believe that I could achieve something special, even though the odds said it's impossible.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And there's something to, I've thought about this a lot, and I've heard other people talk about it, but there is something to having an example of what not to do as a kid. And I think that some of that was with my parents. I was like, well, I definitely don't want to do that. Like, I know I don't want to be that. But then you're right. It's like, I didn't know what to look to as an example. So one good thing these days is that we do have platforms like this where we can get it out there and tell young people like, look, man, I was there. I was up against it. I know exactly how you're feeling, but look, you just got to stick it out, and it is possible to overcome. So that's why, again, why I appreciate dudes like you, man. And I know you wrote a book. So can you tell us a little bit about that and where that's available and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so after my transition from the NFL, I didn't play in the NFL long. I signed with the Bears coming out of college. I got cut after the preseason. So I was bouncing around from place to place just trying to find a team, and nothing stuck. And it was weird for me at the time because most people, and I'm blessed to be able to say that I was one of those guys. Like, you have some guys that get cut just because they aren't good enough. So in my situation, it was tough for me because it was so many different factors from politics and so many things outside of my control that kind of messed things up for me. So it was tough for me because it was always the situation coming up where the best players played no matter what. So going through that and going through those different trials, trying to go into a developmental league and that not working out, the league folded. I was just at a place where I didn't know what to do. But ultimately, everything that I had been through up to that point, I was like, man, I just feel like all these things are going wrong. I know I'm a Pro Bowl caliber player, but everything's going wrong. Maybe there's something else that I'm meant to do. So I was like, man, let me just tell my story. I know it may help somebody else that comes up in this sport, in this game, just in life in general. They're struggling, things aren't going their way. It may help them get through it. And that was the ultimate motivation behind it. I didn't expect it to do how well it did. When we first started off, the first year, it was average, like just local supporters, mine, and family, friends, some fans that followed me. But then when the pandemic hit, that's when everything took off. Like, people that aren't even sports fans start reading the book. I remember the first time somebody reached out to me and I realized, like, I'm at this point, I'm kind of discouraged. The book wasn't as successful as I liked it to be. And I'm thinking about what's next. What should I do next? I've had a clothing line already. So I'm like, should I write another book? What should I do? And somebody reached out to me and they're like, man, you don't know me. I'm not a Florida State fan. I don't follow sports, but I came across your book. I lost my job and I was just looking around and I saw this book called Trials of Triumph on Amazon. And I just liked the title. So I clicked on it and I read it. I read the bio. So I read it and it kept me from saving my life. You don't know, I was prepared to take my life this week.
Wow.
Reading your book made me not do that. So continue doing whatever you're doing. I know you're going to change lives. Just hearing that message, it lit a fire up in me. Like, I have to continue going. Like, I know there's millions of people out here that need to hear stories like this.
Dude, absolutely. Absolutely. And I can relate. Sometimes it's real easy to get down and wonder if what you're doing is making a difference. You're, hoping that it is. But when you get those stories from people that are like, dude, it changed my life. Like, that's some heavy stuff. And that's what it's all about, brother. I love that. And so is the plan to write more books and keep pursuing that as well as obviously the other stuff?
Yeah, without a doubt. I had plans to release another book soon, but now that we're in the process of releasing this film, I had to put a hold on that. But definitely want to get more books pumped out. That's a passion of mine. It's funny because coming up in elementary and middle school, I was always the guy coming up that had good grades, but they would always enter me in the writing contest. Like, nationwide. I'd be the guy from my classroom that got
Nice.
entered in the national contest as a writer. So to be able to do that now at this level, it's a blessing to share that gift with the world.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And again, young people listening, don't don't cheat yourself. Pay attention in class and learn how to write, because being able to speak well and write well later in life will do you right. So what is your, because I'm currently writing my first book I've ever written. I've published articles and stuff, but that's very different. What was your process like writing the book? Like, the biggest problem for me when I first sat down was, okay, how am I going to plan this out? Like, what's my process going to be? Do I just sit down and like start writing, or do I plot out, like different chapters? What was your process like for doing that?
Well, first off, since I was new to it, I came into everything up to this point. It was trial and error. So I didn't have any direction, any mentors in the game that had done it. So I was just going in and just writing my story out. And along the way, I just started focusing on the things that I felt like I would have wanted to hear coming out of my situation, the things that would have helped me make that transition smoother. And that's the emphasis I placed on the process. And it got tough for me just going through the process. I remember like the first 2 months, I'm going through it, I'm pumping everything out, and then I hit a wall. And it's crazy to say because it's my story, but I don't know. I just hit a wall. And one thing I would say about books, it's a grind, and you have to get it done now, because if you wait, you're never going to get it done. That's for anybody that's writing a book, that's planning to write a book. I hear people all the time saying, man, I would love to write a book, or I've been wanting to write a book. Get it done now, because if you continue to wait, it's never going to happen.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're a very disciplined guy too. You were able to sit down and crank it out. Do you have a process you follow each day for, like, all right, I'm going to make sure I check these boxes, or I'm going to sit down and write for an hour, or what? I'm always interested in, because I consider you a highly productive individual. I'm always interested in how highly productive people like yourself go about their day, go about their routine. How does that look for you?
Yeah, for me, every day, one thing I got to do every single morning, just before I get the day started, it's kind of like my breakfast. I got to get 5,000 jumps in on the jump rope. I got to.
Oh, yeah?
That's how I start my day off. It wakes me up, has me ready, gets me feeling energized. And then from there, I look at everything that I have for the day, I plan it out. But if I don't get those 5,000 jumps in, I know later something may pop up, and then I'm not may not be able to work out again that day, and I just feel terrible. So number one, I got to get that done. And then I go and take a look at everything else I have lined up. And if I have a free day that day, I'm hitting it harder in the morning. And I'm spending time with my daughter or whatever the case may be, because for me, it's all about balance. And that's one thing I practice, even writing the book. Just the first 2 months, I would say I was kind of overwhelming myself. And that's probably why I hit that wall. Just not having that balance, just focusing so much on getting the book out and all of these things. And it was a lot on me, because I was writing the book because, one, I was trying to help people, but I was still trying to figure out my purpose. So I was so focused on figuring out my purpose that I put too much on myself, and it became a lot on me. So for me, finding that balance and keep maintaining that balance in anything, that keeps me at peace.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So basically, don't overwhelm yourself, but sort of stay aggressive and moving forward. And I mean, did you have days where you just couldn't? I mean, you didn't really. There was nothing to write. Like, you just had writer's block, or?
Yeah. Without a doubt, I had days where, I didn't. Good. Some days I didn't go writing for. Sometimes I didn't go writing for weeks at a time. I didn't want to put too much into it, and then it not be the product that I wanted it to be. It didn't come out right just because I was trying to rush to get the book out. So I took time back to sit back and reflect and, analyze the things that were going on around me.
Yeah, I only ask because I definitely have those days right now. So I was kind of asking, like, for myself. It's good to know I'm not the only one, because, like, some days, man, I'll sit down and just stare at the screen, and I'm like, yeah, man, I don't think I have anything today. And then other days, it's like I can't wait to sit down and get everything out, you know.
Yeah, and
So,
I'll say one thing that's different. Like I know you're a guy that get in the gym a lot, take care of your body. Those days that you don't want to do it, I know you're like, man, we got to get in there, that discipline to get in that gym even when you don't want to. With a book, I think it's different sometimes. Like some days you're not going to want to write, and you still have to force yourself to get on it, because like I said, if you don't, you'll never finish the book. But then there's some days you have to sit back and reflect, because if you don't, in the end, you may never finish the book, because in the end, you're going to get burnt out because you overwhelmed yourself the whole entire time. So it's finding that balance between the two.
Yeah, that's true, man. And it's like when you're sick and you still want to be a knucklehead and go work out, but you know you shouldn't because you might do more harm than good. It's like the same thing. If you're not feeling it that day, it's like, man, if I write anything, it's going to be trash. So maybe I should just go do something else. So I definitely get that, and it's good to know that I'm not the only one who goes through that, man. But so pandemic hit, people started to get the book more. Has it been a pretty good response so far as far as feedback? I know obviously you heard from that gentleman who said you changed his life, which is amazing, but what's it been like otherwise?
Yeah, it's been great. Like once it started, that period after, like once the pandemic hit, like it started booming. The book becomes a bestseller a year and a half after me releasing it. Like where does that happen?
That's amazing.
And that's ultimately just sticking with the course, man. I was about to move on and figure out what's next, but sometimes you just got to stay true to that process. You never know, your big break may come 10 years from now, but it's all about staying consistent. The consistency wins, that drives the game, man. But just to answer your question, it's been successful. It became a bestseller, and ultimately staying consistent and continuing to push my story. That's what has me now being able to put a film together where we tell it to the world.
Yeah. So tell me about the film, dude. That's exciting stuff.
Yes. So to start out, like once the book started gaining some attention, some national attention, I was talking with a guy that did a lot of different things with Netflix. He was like, man, I love your story. I would love to work with you. He had a documentary on Netflix, I believe, that just won an Emmy last year. He was like, I would love to work with you. And we were meeting back and forth for like months. Then we got down to the deal, and they were trying to change my story a lot. And ultimately, it was going to be a situation where they were going to make a lot of money, but I didn't get anything. So I guess they thought like it'd be a situation where we're Netflix. This guy's going to be so excited to have his film on Netflix that he won't care. But I wasn't really moved. Like me, I've pushed everything independent since leaving football. Like my clothing line, everything has been out of my pocket, independently funded. So that's my mindset going into things. I know I can be successful, like doing things on my own, but if I have the right team around me, we can take it to the next level. So I wasn't going to sit around and like a musician, man. You have a number one selling record, you can't make a dime off of it. Like that doesn't even make sense.
No.
So I turned them down, and then some guys from Warner Brothers reached out. They worked at Warner Brothers, some producers, and they told me that they were trying to build a new streaming platform, a Web3 streaming platform. And I knew nothing about Web3, NFTs. They kind of broke it down to me. And basically it was about giving power back to the talent. The talent had been taken advantage of for so long in Hollywood, and they were good, genuine guys that wanted to give power back to the talent so that they can profit off of their work and tell their stories the way that they wanted to tell it. So we got things ironed out, and that's where we are now with the film.
What's the timeline looking like?
Yeah, we're releasing. The premiere is going to be October 6th. We've been moving. We've been moving since November. November we started meeting, started filming in March, and October 6th is when it'll premiere.
And what's the name of the film?
Trials of Triumph. I named it after my book, Trials of Triumph, the documentary.
Yeah.
And I haven't told people that. They think it's just a film, but it's actually going to be a docu-series. So this part one, that's going to be our intro to the world, but then we'll go through and kind of tell the stories of all the different casts throughout the process. And then our goals down the line of Lord willing, man, we get to tell some other stories of some people across the world, like Trials of Triumph. We have so many different celebrities tapping in, so many, and not just celebrities, man, just genuine people. Like me personally, man, I'm about genuine people that have great stories to tell to the world. Like This cast, you got some guys that are at the top of the game. Tony Gass is one of the top motivational speakers in the world. He's in it. He's actually from my area, so it's kind of ironic. And then you got Maurice Bernard. He's the top of the soap opera world. But they're in it. And then you got guys like Delvin Bro. He played in the NFL, has a crazy story. Broke his neck in high school, should have died on the spot. Never played it down in college. And then he went on to play in the NFL without ever playing it down in college. So you got guys like that. And then you got people that the world doesn't know. Guys I played with at Florida State, like Tyrell Lyons or Ryan Green. These are guys that were 4 and 5 stars coming out of high school, but injuries, politics, all different type of things kind of killed their career. So hearing stories from guys like that, I think is good because you don't know what route your career can go once you get to that level. So just seeing it, you see a guy like me that had success, and then you see the other side of it. But then also people get to hear from family members of mine that struggle when we're homeless. I know the story that people love is sharing a cheeseburger between my siblings. We only had $1 to our name, sharing a cheeseburger. So you get to hear from my siblings, my family, and we're going to introduce some people to the world that nobody knows. But I promise you, after you hear their stories and you see what they're doing, like nobody has a clue they are, but they're doing big things in the world. But after this, they're going to be stars.
Wow. Dude, that's got to be so gratifying for you to be able to showcase other people who have overcome the odds and made something of themselves as well with your series.
Yeah, I remember just grinding throughout the process, man, and people would just reach out to me. They seen like everything that I was doing, and like I said, I was doing it independently. So it was trial and error. I didn't have a blueprint or anything. It was just moving with purpose, and whatever I felt like God was leading me to. And some people would just reach out to me and like, man, I want to help you. I want to bring you on my platform. And I just remember those people that helped me out when all I needed was a little help to get my story out because it was there. It's just about getting it seen. So seeing those people that they may not have the notoriety, they may not have the recognition, but all they need is one person to hear their story, and you know they're going to do the rest with it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's I mean, shoot, that's when I saw, I don't even know how I came across your profile, but I did. And then I read your story and everything. And that's when I reached out to you. I was like, hey man, however, if you want to come on the show when it's time or whatever, I'd love to have you. So I think that,
I followed you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came across your page one, and I'm a like, no, I have a lot of fun, but I'm a no nonsense guy, and I love real people. Like even the people that love having those hard conversations that nobody else wants to have. Like people around me, like you're soft. You might think I'm an a-hole, but then somebody that knows me, they're like, man, Freddie might have seemed like an a-hole in this situation, but that conversation absolutely changed my life. Yeah. So sometimes it may not come out the right way all the time, but it comes from a good place of seeing people like you that are real and aren't scared of the backlash, speaking out how you feel, and honestly, speaking on the truth. We got so much BS funneled out in this world, man. It's crazy to see in social media, man. It's at an all-time high now, man. So seeing people like you that funnel the truth, speak the truth, and aren't ashamed to speak the truth, I love it.
Yeah, well, thank you, brother. It's for me, it's like, I don't know, it really all kind of changed. And I know you said you have a daughter, you're a father. It all kind of shifted for me once I became a father. It's like I can't watch all this stuff just happen, and not take action and speak up. It's really scary kind of where, at least in America, where society is headed. And especially with backgrounds like ours, man, it's like we realize the power of individual hard work and what you can achieve as a human who just puts your mind to it, man, and pushes yourself. And there's so much out there kind of encouraging a victim mindset and to rely on the state to take care of you. And I mean, that just rubs me the wrong way also, because I saw, my mom take advantage of welfare for years and go sell her food stamps to buy drugs and stuff. And so it's just like, I know what the recipe is, and it's not to sit back and take handouts. The recipe is to put yourself out there and work hard. And that's why I do what I do. And that's why I like showcasing people like you, man, because you are the definition of the power of an individual, someone who says, I have this first football, and I'm telling you right now, this is going to change everything. And look at you now. You know, you're a best-selling author. You played through college, got to the NFL. You're creating this film. I mean, if that doesn't inspire kids out there who might feel like they're up against it and feel like they don't have the power to make a change in their life, man, I don't know what can. So, you know, kudos to you and guys like you for what you're doing, brother. That's what's going to save this country. I truly believe that that's what's going to save this country.
I agree with you. We need more stories like that highlighted. I just want to touch on something you just said, like as far as the people that want handouts. Like one motto that I've always lived by my entire life, and we had to learn it early on, even when we were homeless. Like trying to get help for some people. Remember trying to stay with people, and it was tough. My mother had 5 kids, so you know some of my brothers and sisters, they're a little wild. So staying at someone's house, they're like, man, these kids, they're keeping my lights on, running up my bill, or they're breaking stuff. And ultimately, you realize, like, man, you're out here on your own. Nobody's coming to save you. That's so right. You gotta go do it. Like, I use this analogy all the time, but it's in sports, man. Like when the game gets tough and you see a game come down to the refs, people get mad. Oh, they want to blame the refs. Don't allow it to get in their hands. Like it's on you. Like take advantage of business while you have opportunity, and you wouldn't have to worry about that.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, man. You are clearly very entrepreneurial minded. You're a go-getter. Clearly, is that something that was just a part of who you are intrinsically, or did that come from somewhere? Was there an influence or impact on your life that made you decide I need to be a business person, an entrepreneur. I need to work for myself. Where did that come from?
I think it started with my mom. She always wanted me to get good grades and different things like that. But just me seeing just athletes and just people from that field, they would play and then they had no identity outside of it. Like once they were done playing, they had no identity. So I was like, man, if I was remembered as just only an athlete, I feel like my life was a failure because I was blessed with that gift from birth. I didn't do anything to earn it. Like I was just given that from birth. So I got to go out here and earn something. And that's ultimately what it was for me, becoming an entrepreneur, impacting lives, giving back all those different things. That's what I'm going to be remembered by. Like, unless you're one of those guys, a Peyton Manning, Michael Jordan, people are going to forget you eventually, what you did on the field, on the court, whatever. But they won't forget like the impact that we made on lives and all those other things. So that's ultimately what became most important for me. Even while I was playing, it's just at the time I didn't know how to put that together.
Yeah, man, that's profound though, because a lot of dudes, like you just said, you know, I have a lot of buddies who played at various higher levels in different sports, and a lot of them, man, once they were done or whatever, they're no longer playing, they had no identity because that was everything. That was their entire life. And the way you put it actually just then, that really makes a lot of sense. And I've never heard it put exactly that way, which is that was something you were born with. And if you didn't achieve something outside of that, you wouldn't feel like you had earned anything. And that's a really incredible way to put it. I've legitimately never heard an athlete put it that way, because generally an athlete who's born with a ton of talent, naturally, they're still going to say, like, I worked hard to get where I am, obviously, which of course you did. And you know, every practice is a grind, and you're in the weight room and you're doing everything you need to do, but you do have that God-given talent. Did you have that mindset all the way through that this was a gift that was given to you and you wanted to be more, or did it strike you a little more like as you got further down your career and realized, hey, maybe I need to explore other options? Or was that like from the get? Was that how you felt?
Yeah, further down the line, that's when it started to strike me, because early on, man, I was your typical stereotypical athlete, man.
Yeah.
Everything, I was putting all my eggs in one basket. Everything was about sports, being a ball player. I remember just when people would ask me, man, who are you? And it always revolved around who I was on the football field. And that bothered me once I got older, because when you have people there having those deep conversations, like every single question, every single answer that comes out of my mouth is about football. I can't say who I am outside of that. And
Yeah.
as I got continued to grow and grow, I just wanted to figure out those answers. Who is Freddie Stevenson?
Man, one thing that's very obvious to me, Freddie, is that you have a very high level of self-awareness that I think a lot of people don't have. Um, and I think if you're a listener, that's something you can take from this, is that constant evaluation of who you are and what role you're playing in the world is so important, man. And I think more people, especially young people, especially athletes, like really have that conversation with yourself, and gosh, man, I can relate so much when, as I get older, the story changes when people ask me who I am, what I do, or whatever. I'm like, man, I'm a dad. that's what I am, man. That's my most important job. But I can absolutely relate there, and it's just impressive to me, dude, that you were able to have that much self-awareness, make that evaluation, and make sure you had a plan, because so many guys don't, man, especially coming from backgrounds like us. Like I had nobody like to show me what financial responsibility was or entrepreneurship was or any of that stuff. Is that something you just sought out on your own to learn and kind of found it on the internet and in books and stuff? Or did you have anybody you were able to talk to about it?
I say like early on throughout the process, I kind of hurt myself more than I helped myself. I was just so used to at that point. One, just being in the league and seeing all these different things, how underhanded some people are. It's hard to trust. So I wanted to do a lot of different things on my own. Like, man, I'm going to go out here and get it on my own. So I turned down instruction. Some people that may have wanted to help, it may have came across the wrong way, whatever the case may be. But as I continued to grow and mature, I was open to it. I was responsive to it. Just seeing people that have done it, not even if it wasn't in the lane that I was moving in, just seeing like if you're successful in your lane, it's a reason. And I truly believe that all of those things translate. Like what makes a football player successful outside of his God-given abilities is those intangibles that he has. What makes a businessman successful is those intangibles that he has. So that's why you see these guys, you hear these stories, and a lot of them sound the same. The successful people, when they talk, it all sounds the same because the rules doesn't change. Success leaves clues. So ultimately, if you're following that blueprint, staying true to the process, you're giving yourself a great opportunity to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. And the reason I like to ask that is, again, for young people listening today, never has there been a better time to learn from, like what Freddie just said, success leaves clues, man. With social media and the internet and YouTube, like you can, even if you don't have role models in your direct life, even if you don't have a father figure, even if you don't have someone to teach you about finances, like it's all out there at your fingertips. And instead of watching twerk videos on TikTok, you can go learn that stuff, man. And it's so valuable, especially as a young man. And especially as a young man coming from, a underprivileged background, whatever you want to call it. So you maybe like my dad was never there. So I really, didn't have a father figure. And so I kind of sought that out other places. And, during that time it was the 90s. So it was more like on TV, but it's like you still identify strong male figures, athletes and things like that. So kids are going to seek that out no matter what. And it's like today you got the internet, man. You can find people like Freddie, like look for good, solid role models because they're out there.
Without a doubt, I'm right there with you, man. It's out there. Like I was just telling somebody today when I came from the barbershop, all the information is easily accessible now. Like you got YouTube, Google, so many different things, so many outlets that people just openly give the information and they're not charging for the information. And it just comes down for some people. Some people just don't know, but then the other half, they want somebody to come save them. They want a handout. So at the end of the day, you got to go out here and get it on your own. Nobody's handing anything to anybody. I'm a charitable guy. I love giving back, but that's because I never had those things growing up. But if you think I'm going to just hand somebody an opportunity, a business opportunity that they do not deserve, it's not happening because I'd be out of business. Now you got two people that are struggling.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And especially these days with, not to get super political, but things are looking pretty rough for the country right now. And I don't know when it's going to get better. I don't think anytime soon. and more you see people that want to rely on the government and get mad at the government for their financial situation or what have you. And it's like what you just said, brother, you got to do it yourself, man. Nobody's going to come save you. If you think Joe Biden's going to save you, I got news for you. It's not happening, man. And that's the case always, though. It doesn't matter who's in office. It doesn't matter whether it's a Republican or Democrat or whatever, it's up to you. And that's a lot of what I preach on this show and on my social media. It's like Andy Frisella, who's a guy that I am a big fan of. I've been involved with his company, Phorm, for quite a while. He's a very inspiring guy, and he says personal excellence is the ultimate form of rebellion, and essentially that the making yourself as good as you can be is the only way to actually fix things. And until people get that mindset, we're just going to be down that downward spiral of the people expecting handouts, the government taking advantage of them and their vulnerable situation. They're going to take more and more from the people. And next thing you know, this American dream that everybody talks about, it's going to be poof, gone. And we won't even have the ability to get out there and work hard anymore because now, the government's controlling everything. So it is something that genuinely scares me as a parent, man.
Yeah, the mindset kills me because I'm a person that hates asking people for things. And It comes from a place of, you ever ask somebody for some money, maybe a loan? It comes with so many rules attached to it. I need you to do this. Like when you're dealing with the wrong people, I need you to do this. And it's like, okay, like they're always hovering over your back for that. And I never like that feeling, so I never ask. So even though we're in the land of the free, if you're relying on the government, you'll never be free. So many rules attached to it. You got to abide by this to get this check. You got to abide by this. You're never ever going to be free. So these people that want to get out of their situation and you want to rely on the government, bottom line is not going to happen. Yeah. So you got to do something for yourself. And ultimately, like people like us that are putting out this information, and there are some other dope people in the world, man, putting out great information for these people to listen to. Listen to them and how they got out of their situation. It may not work exactly that way for you. Like I said, success leaves clues. You may be able to take bits and pieces from every single person and add it to you, what you're doing.
Yeah, dude, every time especially young men, that's usually who I hear from, comes to me talking about how bad their situation is and blah, blah, blah. I just don't know how I'm going to. It's like what I tell them is the same thing every time, man. There's somebody out there that had it way worse than you that's doing way better than you now. Like, that's just a fact. That's just a fact, man. And it is possible. And it's not. So I agree that the more you take, the more you are controlled, right? And I would much rather be completely free and not take anything from anybody and do my own thing. And it's I think programmed into people at such a young age, man, that the government is supposed to pay for their student loans and give them free health care and, give them a universal basic income and this and that and the third. And it's like, man, that's not what this country was built on. That's not what made it amazing and made it this environment where people like you can do all the things you've done. And people need to recognize that, man. And unfortunately, people hate hearing that the answer is hard work. Like, I'm sorry, but you're just going to have to put your head down and work hard towards a goal. And there's no way around that. There's no way around that. If you don't want to work hard, you're going to be accountable to someone else. Someone else is going to control your life, like Freddie here just said. And it's just it's scary, bro. It's something that I'm concerned with, and I feel like, unfortunately, we have an elite ruling class that is very keen to take advantage of that and to take advantage of the fact that people want handouts. And I've said it before, freedom over free stuff every time, but it just, yeah, I don't know. I'm not nowhere I'm really going with that, except I just want to emphasize it over and over. People look at look at guys like Freddie. Like you can do it, man. It's it's all out there, and success leaves clues, just like you said, bro. And I hope people understand that. And when I was young, I remember being like, hearing old people try to give me advice and being like, yeah, whatever. And I feel like that's me now trying to give this advice, and they're like, yeah, whatever. But I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, man, I'm telling you. But anyway, brother, so moving forward, what's the next kind of phase look like for you? Obviously, get this film out, keep writing and inspiring. Do you want to speak publicly, or do you have plans for anything else?
Yeah, I got a speech coming up in Florida next week. So I'm still doing the public speaking.
Nice.
I think just continuing to grind this process out, continue speaking, writing books, and hopefully produce some more films in the future. But I do believe like down the line, once everything's established and my company my brand can run itself, I got an entire company behind me, and I got people that I trust can run everything. I think I would want to get back into coaching, like not at the collegiate level, just high school, because that's the level where you can truly impact lives. I don't care about the money, and that's the biggest thing especially since I'm in Florida, they don't get paid much. So if you're worrying about the money, it's going to become stressful. And just being able to use the things that I've learned, my stories, to impact these lives with the knowledge that I've learned from sports and just being a person that lived it, I think that can go a long way, especially with the respect that I have in my area.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. And that's actually something I've thought about more lately, is how could I get involved with like high schools locally? But the problem is, as soon as some of these teachers look me up, it's like, oh, he's controversial. So, I don't know what I can do. I'll just keep putting this out, and maybe eventually the tide will turn a little bit and I can come and work with some young folks and stuff. But, man, dude, it's been an honor talking to you. Anything I can ever do to help, get exposure for what you're trying to do. I believe fully in everything that you're about, man. And I love your story. I love what you're trying to do and impact others by sharing your story. And I'm going to ask you this. You've already given a lot of great advice, and I mean, your story itself is just full of life lessons. But I ask every new guest on the show this: if you could give one piece of advice to young people today, like 18 to 22-year-olds, think maybe even like yourself when you were that age, what would that one piece of advice be?
Yeah, for that age group, I just say trust the process, but don't rush it. I know when we're young, we want to have everything right now. Like when I was young, and I can't wait till I'm this age to get out the house. I can't wait till I'm rich. I can't wait till. And now when we get older, it's like, man, I wish I was 16 years old again. I wish. So enjoy that process, man. Enjoy those lessons, man. You only get one opportunity to be exactly where you are right now. So cherish those relationships, cherish those experiences. When those things come, they will come. But if you're so focused on them right now, you're going to miss out on the things that you're supposed to experience and learn right now, those lessons that you were supposed to learn.
Absolutely, bro. I can remember being that age and being like, I'm 35 now, and I would think that seems an eternity away. And it's like I was 35 in the blink of an eye. So I forget who says it, but it's a phrase, aggressive patience. So be patient, but attack every day, right? And just know that if you take the little steps every day, it's going to happen. And next thing you know, you'll be an old 35-year-old man with gray in your beard talking to young people about being patient. Well, Freddie, man, thank you so much for your time, brother. Is there, I guess you have a website, obviously social media, all those places. Let us know where folks can find you.
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter at StruggleMate105. My website, my books, of course, are on Amazon. And then my website for the film is trialsoftriumphdocumentary.com. We're actually doing both pre-sales right now, but then later this week, you're the first to know it. We're going to start selling the individuals. People have been blowing me up asking for the individuals, so we're going to get that started this week as well.
Boom. Love it, man. All right, guys, check Freddie out. Pay attention to his story and what you can learn from it. again, I'll say it a million times, if you're a young person and you feel like there's no hope, you feel like you're at a disadvantage, you feel like, man, I can't overcome this mountain. I'm telling you, it's possible. There's people like Freddie out there who have done it. Read his story, support him, check his film out when it comes out, man. And Freddie, thanks so much for your time, brother. I've learned a lot from this and gotten a ton of value from talking to you.
And I appreciate you having me, man. And keep being you, man. Like I said, we need more people like you in the world to tell those truths. When you said the thing about the teaching and people being scared off by that, like,
yeah, it's true.
Talk in the world, man. I'm the guy that I don't mind getting cussed out for bringing someone in like you that's going to speak what these kids need to hear, because they've been lied to their entire lives. They need to hear the real, because that's the only way they're going to be able to get out here and survive. Yo,
it's wild. I'm literally, because I'm a white dude who's, I guess, a little country. You know, I hunt and fish, and I got a beard and stuff, and I have the American flag on things, and I support, you know, individualism and hard work. It's immediately like, white supremacist. I'm like, what? Dude, my wife isn't even white. What are y'all talking about? but that's what we're up against these days, man. And be strong, everybody. Keep pushing. And I appreciate your kind words, dude. I'm definitely not stopping. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And you're welcome back on the show anytime, man. If I can ever do anything to help you, just let me know, and I'm there.
Yes, sir, I appreciate you.
You got it. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep your minds free.